Today's rock legend had been a regional sensation for over a decade. But when it was all said and done, he had only one hit in 15 years. By 1976, it had been 8 years since that hit. He just couldn't seem to break through. Well, one night after seeing a popular film of the time, he started to have a vision for a song. It was a very emotional and private experience from his adolescence. And sometime later, he wrote it in an A&W Drive-in after ordering a burger. Rumor is he wrote it on his tab. He wrote it about a teenage tryst. She ended up marrying somebody else, broke his heart, but he turned it into a breakthrough smash single that transformed him into one of American rock's greatest storytellers. And to think, due to a mix-up at his label, it almost ended up being a B-side. Story's coming up next on Professor of Rock. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you've ever recorded a song off the radio, hoping and praying the DJ wouldn't talk over it, this channel was made for you. Subscribe below right now. Make sure to click the bell so you never miss out on our daily features. Also, check us out in the Patreon link below. It's our insider community where we have a new video up right now. You're going to love it. It's a documentary. So it's time for another edition of our series, Number One in Our Hearts, one of my favorite shows we do on here. This is where we discuss a song so grand it should have been a number one hit on the Billboard Hot 100. Bob Seger watched the beloved coming-of-age movie American Graffiti in 1973. It's one of the biggest box office hits of that year. As he was leaving the theater, he was overwhelmed with spirit of nostalgia. Bob loved the imagery of the car culture of the 60s that was depicted in American Graffiti, an era when cruising down a main drag was the way to connect with your friends and hook up with members of the opposite sex.
Cruise downtown and catch American Graffiti.
American Graffiti, baby.
The movie fueled a burning desire in Bob Seger to tell his own story of growing up in Southeast Michigan and to share the private experience that he had, a teenage tryst with a black-haired beauty who had big dark eyes.
She was a black-haired beauty with big dark eyes.
Bob was 19, she was 20. The tale of Bob Seger's first carnal relationship and his first broken heart was immortalized in a breakthrough composition that Bob called Night Moves.
I was a little too tall, could have used a few pounds.
Inspired by descriptive imagery projected by Chris Christopherson in his '69 opus Me and Bobby McGee, Bob Seger recalled his fondest memories that captured the freedom and the looseness of adolescence.
Windshield wipers slapping time and Bobby clapping hands.
So by the end of high school, Bob was running with a dangerous crowd because, you know, of his status as a musician. They were kind of a rough bunch. Everybody wanted to be Bob's buddy. The group of friends that he socialized with would often have parties that they called grassers. This entailed driving to a farmer's field outside of their native Ann Arbor where they would park their cars, turn on the headlights, and dance their night moves.
Working on a night moves.
Bob met the object of his desire at one of those sweet summertime grassers. According to the Encyclopedia of Great Popular Song Recordings, the woman's name was actually Renee Andretti. Bob and Renee began a heated romantic relationship, although Renee actually had a serious boyfriend who was away from home working in the military at the time. Now, eventually, her boyfriend returned to Ann Arbor, and he and Renee were married, leaving Bob Seger with the pain of a broken heart. He was nursing it. The lasting effects of that heartbreak were felt all over again when Seger wrote Night Moves. Bob Seger admitted that many of the songs that he created during that time were written to impress the dark and alluring Renee Andretti. Seger shared the story that after being inspired by American Graffiti, he wrote most of the song while waiting for his food at an A&W Drive-in. The rumor is he ordered his food and then he wrote it down on a receipt or on a tab. It's the all-American song, so it makes sense that he wrote it at a drive-in. In addition to the night moves while dancing in a field, the phrase night moves has a couple of other meanings.
Way up firm and high.
The most obvious meaning for night moves being used as a term that describes, putting the moves on a girl in a 60 Chevrolet.
Out in the back seat of my 60 Chevy.
But perhaps the most poignant in Bob Seger's cherished reminiscence is how he aligns the title of the song to the passing of time, with night moves describing the changing seasons of life, while looking back on the past with a tear and a smile. As Seger wrote in the song's contemplative second bridge, I woke last night to the sound of thunder. How far off I sat and wondered.
How far off I sat and wondered.
Started humming a song from 1962. Ain't it funny how the night moves?
Ain't it funny how the night moves?
When you just don't seem to have as much to lose. Strange how the night moves, with autumn closing in.
Started humming a song from 1962.
Now that, my friends, that's how you write a bridge. Heartfelt, wistful, potently nostalgic, reminiscing of a time long gone but never forgotten in our souls. Pausing the other instruments, it left a reminiscing Seger to gently sing the bridge with the soft strum of an acoustic guitar, and as we hear that pure and unadulterated jukebox poetry, one feels both a melancholy yearning and the gleaming rhapsody of nostalgia.
How the night moves.
I had to repeat it again. It's one of my favorite words, nostalgia. It's magic. It's something that very few songwriters can furnish. In a way, it's like deja vu, like you're experiencing it all over again in real time. Songwriters like Tom Petty, Bruce Springsteen, Jackson Browne, Joni Mitchell, Billy Joel, John Mellencamp, and of course, the great Bob Seger. I mean, you can still feel the pain of what transpired in that summer of heartache, but you're oh so glad that it happened. So you can recall that memory whenever, you need nourishment to lift your spirits. Bob stated that the passage about walking to the sound of thunder, that came from late night self-analysis and the uncertainty that the night represents.
I woke last night to the sound of thunder.
Let's pause the nostalgia for a second so I can mention our awesome sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, the glasses I always wear. With Zenni, you can customize your eyewear with a prescription lens, non-prescription lens, sunglasses, reading glasses, whatever you want. They have everything. You get exactly what you're looking for there, and up to 80% off regular retail prices. I mean, you can get multiple pairs for the price of a vinyl record. It's amazing. Click on this info button right here so that you get the best deal, special POR deal, or you can click on our link below. So Bob Seger recalled thinking about the whole aura of nighttime, the 4 o'clock in the morning moment when the rest of the world is asleep. And you're awake, assessing yourself, checking your weaknesses. After a singer sings the lyric, the other instruments, the piano, electric guitar, the organ, and the drums return for the blissful crescendo. And a resounding coda vamps up the track's soulful chorus. It's just a masterwork of introspection. The arrangement of two bridges and night moves was inspired by Seger's admiration for the song Jungle Land by Bruce Springsteen, the boss. How about that?
Churches to the jails, tonight all is silent.
Seger was actually having difficulty finishing night moves. He had drafted the song in pieces, really. But after he heard Jungle Land, he honed in on the tempo changes, that happened in Jungle Land, and he realized that he could connect his verses with two distinct bridges. Although it did take Bob Seger over 6 months to compose the lyrics, Night Moves was finished in the recording studio in about 9 takes. That beautiful second bridge, that was recorded separately, after the main session had dispersed, with Seger alone to record his vocal and play the acoustic guitar. Seger and the production team remained at the Nimbus 9 Studios in Toronto, Ontario, until the wee hours of the morning to get the song exactly right. And that bridge, it came on the fly. Like I said, he credits Springsteen, but also the entire Born to Run album as a major influence on him while recording the record, and the two musicians would actually meet soon after, and they've jammed together on many occasions. Night Moves was produced by the late award-winning Canadian record producer Jack Richardson.
Working and practicing all of the night.
He was the head collaborator in the studio with the Guess Who and all those great songs that they created from 1969 through 1974. Jack also worked with Alice Cooper and Poco, just to name a few. Seger recalled that Richardson was not sold on this song, when he first played it for him on a piano in Richardson's office. Now, conversely, Jack Richardson recounted that it was Seger who was initially reluctant to record the song. He didn't think it was good enough to record, actually. Inner artistic wrestlings happen even with the best of them. Two different stories. Bob had been waiting on the right moment to record Night Moves, fearing that a saxophone performed by Alto Reed would not complement the mood that he was trying to capture, and the lead guitarist Drew Abbott's playing would not be satisfactory. It was a team effort, though, between Seger and Richardson, along with Bob's longtime manager Punch Andrews and engineer Brian Christian, that definitively brought the song to life in the studio.
She used me, but neither one cared. We were getting our share.
Most of the members of the Silver Bullet Band had left Toronto by that point. Only bassist Chris Campbell and drummer Charlie Allen Martin were available to perform on Night Moves, so Richardson made some phone calls and recruited Joe McCollum. He performed the electric guitar, and then Doug Riley played the organ, while Sharon Lee Williams, Ron DeSilver, and Laurel Ward sang the song's riveting backing vocals. Williams, Silver, and Ward were a singing trio from Montreal, actually. They just happened to be in town and available to lend their wonderful voices. It was really quite a stroke of luck that Richardson found him so quickly. But there was definitely some rock and roll serendipity at work as well, since the trio contributed so much soulful luster to Night Moves. It added dimensions that were very fitting to a Seger track, since he was crazy about R&B and, of course, the sounds of Motown. After the tracks were mixed by Richardson and engineer Brian Christian, Richardson said that he got a call from Bob's longtime manager-producer Punch Andrews saying that they were dissatisfied with the tracks, and he shared that Capitol, they were not on board. I guess a few months later, when Jack Richardson was talking to a Capitol executive, he broached the subject about the Seger sessions and was immediately told that both songs were potential B-sides, meaning Night Moves as a B-side. Night Moves as a B-side? I mean, this was a classic song. Anyone could hear it. Once the song was mastered, Bob Seger knew in his mind Night Moves would be a smash hit. How could the label not get behind it? Come to find out, Bob Seger and his manager Andrews had never actually given Night Moves to Capitol in the first place. So Richardson, he was ecstatic. He couldn't wait to show the label the song. And man, when he did, the executives at Capitol Records, they were just as certain that it would blow up radio, just as certain as Seger was.
And we steal away every chance we could.
In fact, Bob Seger recalled the highly respected promotion executive at Capitol, a guy named Bruce Wendell. He prophetically told him, "You're going to be singing this song for your entire career." That Capitol made it the title track of Seger's next album, as well as the first single. Ain't it funny how the night moves? For 1 minute, you're trying to lose those awkward teenage blues. You feel the lightning, and in a flash, it's many years later, and you're looking back in your mind's eye, wondering where all the time went. We spend our lives working and practicing, as Bob Seger so concisely put it.
And it was summertime.
Working and practicing on something every day. Relationships, our jobs, parenting, improving our socialization with others. The lyrics and the music of Night Moves invokes universal kinship and perspective. The passion of Bob Seger's sentimental classic takes us back to that special memory that we all have of our first romance. I mean, regardless of how long ago it happened, you can still feel that excitement, the tension and the awkwardness. We were all feeling something that we had never felt before, whether it was that first slow dance or that first kiss. Maybe it was holding hands or just simply being all alone with someone for the first time that really took your breath away. We don't know what we're doing at the time, but we didn't care. Our bodies took over and made the moves for us.
Trying to lose an awkward teenage blues.
First time I heard this song, I was mesmerized by the lyrics, but even more so by Bob Seger's powerful voice. When Seger sings, you just stand at attention. It has mountainous timbre that grabs you by the throat and envelops you from the inside out.
Working on mysteries without any clues.
And on this song in particular, it's like a rite of passage. We all experience the night moves of physical attraction, when everything seemed possible. Not a care in the world except those summer nights or long weekends, when, as Jackson Browne once said, when the cars and the signs and the streetlights light up the town.
When the cars and the signs and the streetlights light up the town.
You know you got a shot to make some front page drive-in news. Those were the days. Night Moves, it was released as the lead single and title track from Bob Seger and Silver Bullet Band's LP Night Moves. That was in December of 76. It reached number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 in March of 77. The single also charted at number 5 in Canada, and it was a top 25er in Australia.
Trying to make some front page drive-in news.
Night Moves became Seger's first hit single, actually since Ramblin' Gamblin' Man, since that climbed to number 17 on the Billboard Hot 169. It took him 8 years to get to the place that he belonged, at the top of the charts, at the top of our radio dial. Rolling Stone magazine, they named it the best single of the year for 77. That's back when they actually were decent. Night Moves was truly the breakthrough track that changed Bob Seger from a hometown hero with tight pants and metal points in his shoes to an international superstar and into one of the great storytellers of American rock music.
I sure remember the night moves.
Bob calls Night Moves his favorite song that he's ever written, and one that he continued to try and replicate time and again after. Throughout his career, he's done just that. Songs like Main Street.
Down on Main Street.
Still the Same. Hollywood Nights.
All those big city nights. In those high rolling.
Fire Lake, Against the Wind, Like a Rock. Just to name but a few of his classic rock and roll lore.
Against the wind.
We got to cover these in the future for sure. Night Moves has been heavily licensed in movies, with a notable placement in FM that happened in 78, American Pop in 81, and All Nighter in 2017. It's also been widely placed in TV, including episodes of Supernatural, Ray Donovan, Family Guy, How I Met Your Mother, The OC, that 70s show, and Knight Rider as well. Now, the week that Night Moves peaked at number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100, the 3 songs ahead of it were Rich Girl by Daryl Hall and John Oates. That was at number 3.
And you're gone too far, 'cause you know it don't matter anyway.
Fly Like an Eagle by Steve Miller Band at number 2.
Fly like an eagle to the sea.
And Barbra Streisand was spending one of her 3 weeks at number 1 with Evergreen, the love theme from A Star Is Born. So I'm going to rewrite history here, make some front page drive-in news, and give one of those weeks to Mr. Seger, who would have his lone number 1 hit a decade later with Shakedown from Beverly Hills Cop 2, actually. Thing is, Night Moves is a no doubt about it, bona fide number 1 hit that is still rattling around in our psyche. It's simply one of the finest coming-of-age rock and roll songs ever. Like I said earlier, it's a rite of passage. It seems to get discovered by every generation. I just showed it to my son a couple of years back. Because styles may change, fads come in and out, but those sacred rock and roll songs of yesteryear, the ones that came out in the 50s and the 60s, 70s, and 80s, they still resonate. They still power our passions and our intellect. But most of all, they fuel our greatest dreams and our most precious memories. As Bob Seger once said, rock and roll never forgets.
With autumn closing in.
Leave us a comment about Bob Seger and this beautiful composition of youthful exploration, nostalgia. What are your memories of the song? You gotta share them. What other Seger classics should we feature on here? He's such a great songwriter, one of my favorites. What do you think about his other songs? What are your memories of growing up and hearing this song? And it just feels like we all have these experiences. Check it out below. If you want to be a part of this community, we'd love to have you subscribe below. Until next time, 3 chords.